Breaking news today. Applebaum and the West must win against Russia. The analyst concluded that a more aggressive strategy was required to defeat Vladimir Putin. U.S. Analyst Ann Applebaum argued that the West must adopt a much more aggressive strategy to defeat Russia in the war in order to end the offensive and prevent the emergence of a new era of major global conflicts. Expert on Eastern European history and author of bestsellers like Gulag and Hambruna Roja, Ann Applebaum wrote in The Atlantic that Russian President Vladimir Putin has not given up on his imperial ambitions toward Ukraine despite the conflict dragging on for more than 21 months. Putin still thinks he can win the conflict, despite the United States, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and OTAN's support for Volodymyr Zelensky's government, it was noted. According to Applebaum, Putin believes the Republican Party, some members of which have disseminated Russian propaganda, will win the 2024 U.S. presidential elections and withdraw support for Ukraine. They estimate that since the invasion began on February 24, 2022, Russian forces have withdrawn from roughly half of the occupied territory in Ukraine. The expert believes that at least 88,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in battle and that over 176,000 have been injured. Furthermore, estimates place Russia's military equipment losses at billions of dollars, with many thousands of destroyed tanks, aircraft, and helicopters, in addition to sunken warships in the Black Sea. Despite these staggering lows, Applebaum warned that Putin appears to believe he can still win the political and economic war by weakening Ukraine and chipping away at the support of its allies. If you can't win on the battlefield, you'll win through political intrigue and economic pressure, he declared. In light of this potential scenario, the analyst urged the United States, the Organization for Transatlantic Cooperation, OTAN, and the European Union to abandon their current reactive strategy of solely supporting Ukraine and instead adopt a much more proactive policy in order to completely defeat Russia across the board. The expert proposes a concrete measures checklist for the West. Aumentar drásticamente el presupuesto militar para igualar el gasto bélico ruso, que alcanza el 40% del presupuesto estatal anual de Rusia. Modernizar los arsenales y acelerar la producción armamentística para poder abastecer rápidamente a Ucrania con las armas avanzadas que necesita. In order to compensate Ukraine for war damages, Russia must have its frozen overseas assets confiscated. This is estimated to be worth around $300 billion. Implement cyberattacks, sabotage of infrastructure, and the blocking of critical imported components to cripple Russia's petrochemical industry. Applebaum argued that the West needs to realize that Russia's invasion of Ukraine marks the beginning of a new era of conflict between great powers, and that a response worthy of this danger is necessary. The analyst warns that a Russian victory would not only destroy Ukraine, but would also strengthen Putin's global destabilizing power, encouraging further aggression from Russia and its allies like China and Iran. Therefore, it is insisted that the war will not end until the Russian dream of neo-imperialism over Ukraine is completely abandoned, as happened with the end of European colonialism over Albania and Ireland in the 20th century. Debemos demostrar que nuestro compromiso con el principio de que Rusia deba pagar reparaciones a Ucrania es real, enfatizó Applebaum. The conquest of Ukraine could give Iran, Venezuela, Syria, and Putin's other allies more influence. It is still possible to encourage China to invade Taiwan. Still, it's possible that it could lead to a new kind of Europe, one in which Poland, the Baltic states, and even Germany are under constant physical threat, with all the repercussions that would have for trade and economic growth. Although the idea of a permanently at war Europe is laughable to the majority of Westerners, it seems entirely plausible to Russia's president. Putin spent a significant portion of his life working for the KGB and representing Soviet interests in Germany's capital city of Berlin. Keep in mind that Moscow once ruled over eastern Germany. If it was possible once, why not again? They wondered. And finally, he said, by learning to fight against Russia, a sophisticated autocracy with global ambitions, we'll be better prepared for larger conflicts in the future. should there ever be a fight with China or Iran. And most importantly, if we can defeat Russia, we may be able to prevent some of the world's largest conflicts from ever starting. The goal in Ukraine must be to end Russia's brutal invasion and deter others from launching their own.